Hey everybody, Alex here with another quick tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about making your portfolio in graphic design, graphic arts, final portfolio. This is for my students, this is for anyone in general if you're trying to make basically a master document that has all of your digital artwork together in one master PDF file. It's a very convenient way to email it to potential jobs and also to host it on websites and just basically have it all together in one document. So I took the liberty of just making a folder here of various work. Some of this is just, if you've taken my class, you've seen, like the Africa assignment. Again, you don't have to use the book assignments in your portfolio, but you certainly can if you're in my class. Mostly the focus is going to be on the portfolio builders. So for instance, I did this variation of the Puss in Boots poster for the webisodes that we had done before, my writing partner and I. So I put this is something I might put in my portfolio, okay, because I created it and it's something that I want to feature. Also the Skills USA poster that I made for the video we had made previously, the documentary about Skills USA. There's also a documentary here about the LPL project, which is something I directed, and I had built this poster. So those would be more the original artwork. But again, if you did do a more guided assignment or book assignment, you want to include those are fine. It's a living document. I always say this about your portfolio. You can add to it, you can subtract from it. As you create more, maybe you'll add more, subtract ones that seem, more like they were a stepping stone for you previously. But basically the idea is to make it kind of like a book that someone could look through. And there are two very important pages you want to have. You want to have a front and a back page. So I actually I borrowed a former graphic design student's page. This was Redo, and he made this cool cover. And you can see it kind of almost looks like it's a physical, notebook type of drawing book. It has this kind of like texture to it. So it's a nice style here on the spine here, almost the spine, toward the edge, I should say. He has portfolio written, right, vertically. So it has sort of a style to it. And it has this name. So it's up to you what you want to say. At least you want to say, graphic designer or digital art portfolio, something like that, and have your name on the front and give it some sort of style to it, because this is the first page we see. People are going to want to open it based on if they, if it seems appealing. I mean, it's kind of your first line of defense. And then you want to do a closer page, and the closer page can be, I opened the front again. Closer page is going to be in the same style. Here we go, back page, yeah. So as you can see, I'm going to zoom out here. Similar style. He added this little thank you. Sorry, I have this message here. There we go. Add this little thank you for your consideration. Kind of a little bit of variation here. His contact info is down here, and I just kind of blurred that a little bit just so we're not, bothering him. But anyway, that's normally what you would do. You'd put your contact information. How do you reach the person? So, if you wanted to have like a web address, looks like he has a phone number, Gmail, that kind of thing. That's where it would go, contact info. I mean, obviously, they'd probably have your contact info, an employer, if you applied for a job, you sent your resume, and you sent your portfolio. But it's just a fail-safe, just in case. So remember, the portfolio, it's the language we use besides a resume when you're applying for graphic art, graphic design jobs, okay? It's something you would likely show perhaps in the interview if you bring it on an iPad, or you might send it in advance, or again, you could put it on your website, your whatever, Facebook, I guess Facebook you'd have to separate it because it would be different pages, but anywhere you could host a PDF, you could basically put it. I think, Tumblr and, certainly a WordPress, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's talk about what do we do though? How do we put this together? So, you created all your artwork and now you want to merge it into one booklet. So there's a couple options there. Now down here you can see in my doc, I have the big three opened, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And really it's up to you. I mean, InDesign is kind of naturally what comes to mind when creating a multi-page document. So I would recommend using InDesign, but you certainly don't have to. And, it's as simple as just making a file, new document, okay? It's up to you. Okay, I'm going to go here to print, letter size, and then, let's switch to inches here. It's up to you if you want to do more the portrait, the tall orientation, or if you want to do landscape. I mean, this would be, landscape wider than it is tall. This would be a decision to make based on your artwork. And if you have more that kind of fits in this proportion than this proportion, because if you do it through InDesign, you're going to standardize your pages all to be a certain size, which is what people kind of like to do sometimes. I'm going to do portraiture and just stick with 8.5 by 11 here. Okay, I know sometimes I've done the 875 by 1125, and that's mostly for printing situations to have a little bit of a bleed margin. Since this is going to exist mostly in a digital form, though, 8.5 by 11 is fine. I want to have multiple pages, though. So let's say I choose 8 pages for now. I don't want them to be facing pages. Start pages 1. If you want to have a little margin, you can. I mean, this stuff is not going to show bleed and margin and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Create and create my multi 8-page document. So look on the side here, the Pages panel, which, by the way, if you don't see this, you just go to Window, Pages. You have all 1 through 8 pages here. And it's as simple now as bringing in all your documents, okay? So the cover page, that's something you can make in anything. You can make it in Photoshop, you can make it in Illustrator, you can even make it here in InDesign if you wanted to just use these tools, the type tool, the shape tool, and so forth, and build your cover page. You can make it here. You can certainly do that. But since it was made in a different program, in this case it was Photoshop, I saved it as a PDF, I'm just going to go ahead. Yeah, you can either drag them in or you could just do the file place method. I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to paste that cover page basically in here. So let's go to desktop. Yes, archive. And this would be portfolio redo front, because I'm using redos as an example. This is sort of a mixture of things. So you see when I do this, I just go ahead and click place. Whoop, there it goes. Yeah. It almost fits actually, because it is, actually it does fit, because it already was 8.5 by 11. So just go ahead and make it fit to the page. And then I would go to page 2, or I could go right to my back page if I wanted to, jump ahead, double click on it, and we could go ahead and do a file, place, and then just bring in the back page. Bring in the back page and just paste it here. Place it, I should say, not paste really. And there it is. So now we have the back page. Now I'm going to do all my filler pages like page 2. Now the order is up to you. I always say lead with what is your best work, and then maybe finish with something. The second to last page that's very strong. Sometimes they only look at the first couple pages, So let's say I borrowed some other students' work here. This is one of the book assignments. I'm going to go ahead and put the jazz poster here. Now this is one where it was done in the orientation of, or the size of tabloid. Whoops, look what happened there. Okay, so this is a important thing to remember, by the way. I'm going to zoom out. When you're resizing in InDesign, you have that issue that can happen where it's as we talked about, the orange frame, done this in other tutorials, that's the image inside the frame, and then the outer frame, which is the blue, okay? So you can go ahead, though, and select Auto Fit and make them go together, and then, so it's right up here in the control panel, and then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hold Shift here and resize it, and make it into something a little bit more that fits, yeah. So Auto Fit if you have that issue. Yeah, so, this might be one of those ones where, again, actually it's good that I have some margins because this helps me a little bit. It's not going to exactly fit to the page, so you have to kind of, it's a little bit taller, right, than a piece of paper, so 8.5 by 11. So you're going to have to do a little manipulation of the size to kind of get the fit that you like there. You can use your arrows too to help position it. I'm using my arrows a little bit here. Anyway, try to get it nice and centered there. And that's my page 2. Okay. Go to my page 3, file open, and this, not open, place. Happens to the best of us. File open versus place. Yeah, open is not what we want here. We want to place something on the document. Open would be like if we're opening an InDesign file or a separate file that we're going to work on. So let's bring in, actually what happens if we bring in something like this, okay, the Moonscape book cover. See, this is going to be tricky because this is a really wide design, right? Well, you're going to have to do something like perhaps shrink it down and, oh yeah, let's again hit the auto fit here. Hold the shift, grab the corner, I'm on the select tool, shrink it down. And this one, you might have to center it there. Now, this might bother you because there's so much empty space there, okay? Some people like to do things like maybe make a colored square that you'd put in the background. You know, I'm going to switch it to maybe a nice, like a sort of a gray type of color maybe. Yeah, that would probably be preferable. Not really black. Kind of a lighter, or maybe a lighter blue type of thing. I don't know. Just something so it stands in contrast. Yeah, and then I'll send this to the back. Arrange, send to back. Okay, so it kind of, you know, helps it a little bit so it's not just all this empty white space. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll move my moonscapes down, and then I'm going to place, file place. I have another one here. This is a student's book jacket, book cover. Okay. Oh, I had it on, there we go. I accidentally replaced it there. Okay, there we go. So I brought it in. Didn't want to place over the other one. And yeah, and maybe I'll put it above it. That's basically what I'm saying. So you could fit two on one page perhaps. That might be the way to do it, so you're kind of maximizing the use of space. You know, if you have something else that's kind of long that you could put on there. So that's kind of one idea for how you can maybe, you know, this would be considered my book jacket page where I feature all my different book jackets or my wider designs, whatever you want to do. Some people, if you have the logo assignment, maybe you'll put the different logos all on one page rather than one at a time pages. So there's different things you can do. Okay. So anyway, you could keep going with this. If, you know, I could keep doing file place and just continue to bring in more of these, you know, the Skills USA if I wanted, the Puss in Boots, whatever, and just continue to populate my portfolio, you know, in whatever order I want it to be, however I want it to, you know, fill the page and so forth. You know, I have to go always to the very edges here. See, this is one, I always forget that auto fit. This is one where it's going to be a little taller, yeah, so you'd probably want to kind of position it in the center a little bit. So anyway, you'll figure it out. That's kind of the idea. When you're done, we go ahead and we'll do, wait a minute now, is it I always forget this. Is it export? Yeah, it is export, not save as. Different than Photoshop. So export, Adobe PDF, not interactive, but print. Interactive would be if there's some clickable elements. And then I'm going to go ahead up here and just say, you know, let's go back to desktop here. And I'll say, you know, final portfolio. If I can spell it right. Save. Now here, you know, if you're not too familiar with all this, a lot of the defaults are generally fine. There's going to be some JPEG compression, which I think is fine. You know, truth be told, I mean, JPEGs are they do have artifacting with them going on if you do try to manipulate them later. But this is a deliverable, so I think we're okay with that. So yeah, just basically leave all this to the default there. Then you just go ahead and do export. And then let's go to my, yeah, here it is. So I don't know if it's still doing it. Let me see, can I open it? Is it still in the, oh, I think it's still being exported, yeah. Still in the, might take a moment for it to, I know I left some blank pages, I'm not really finishing it, but you could go ahead and go through these steps. There it goes, now it's done. And we have a master document. See? There are the blank pages I can still fill, and then there's the back page. So this is a great thing I could send now to jobs and so forth. Do my thumbnails here, you can see the different pages individually. So this is a great way to do it if you want to standardize all the pages, which is often what you want to do. You know, it would really be convenient for if you're showing it on an iPad, or again, just sometimes you do want to print it out. If you wanted to print it out and have a version of it that you deliver to the office of the job you're applying to. So, you know, something you might go to FedEx office and get a nice kind of binder. It's a little bit more old school now. We don't quite see as much of the leave behinds, but certainly it's something you might want to do. Alternatively, if you're more comfortable with Illustrator, the reason I have this open is you could do something similar in Illustrator. Go File, New. And then you could go ahead and do print, same thing. I have a lot of programs open, so it's going, yeah, there we go. Let's go to inches, and I'll do again portraiture. And in this case, it's not pages, it's how many artboards you want. So I'm going to do 8 artboards, create. And it will go ahead and create all my pages this way. So this is another way you can do it. And if you're more comfortable, by the way, you can use the artboard tool. I've shown this in other tutorials. They number them so you can know which order they're in. You won't lose track. But maybe you want to kind of separate them visually, you know, add a little more spacing between them or whatever. Maybe just have them all in a line like this. I know it can be confusing if they're kind of stacked. You know, whatever space you want between them. It doesn't really matter. This is just the order once you export them that they will appear in. And then it's really just the same thing. I mean, it's just going and doing a file place, you know, file place. You know, once again, I'm going to go to my desktop archive, and I will go to the front page, place, and go ahead and put it here. And then I will go to file place. Oops, let's deselect that, file place. And let's choose, wait, where am I? Oh yeah, file place. What do I want to do? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. This is all just, yeah, I could do the LAPL poster if I want this time, page 2, sure. Again, I might have to do a little bit of resizing to get things fitting correctly here. And I can make this my page 2. And you just do it one at a time until you get through all of them. Same difference, okay? Same difference. And then when you're done, file, export, export as. Let's go ahead and bring this up here. And I'm going to do, oh, actually, this is what I was thinking about. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it is save as. See, this is where it gets confusing. So it's actually export when you're in InDesign, and then you choose Adobe PDF Print. But when you're in Illustrator, it's file save as, and then you choose Adobe PDF. So it's a little confusing. I believe also, yes, in Photoshop, it's save. It's save as, of course, in Photoshop. So it's only in InDesign that has the export if you want to make the master PDF. So I just wanted to point that out. I still forget that to this day because it's just unusual to have that difference between them. But anyway, so there's a range here. I'm going to just say all because I want all pages. And I know I haven't finished this, but that's fine. So you'd again give it a name, you know, final portfolio or whatever you want to call it. And then you would just do save. Now the difference here, let's call it 2, just so I don't replay the other one. Doesn't really matter, but yeah, compression. Okay, so yeah, it's still there's still choices to be made here. If you're not really familiar with this, you could do the same thing where you just kind of leave it to default, but you want to make sure, you know, the resolution is high enough. That's sort of what I was getting at there. So this is saying do not downsample. Okay, save PDF, and it should deliver yet another one. like I said, the sizing, as long as it's, you know, you're not making the compression too much, it's not going to hurt it. So this one, I believe, is still in the process. That's why we're seeing it displayed that way. And there it is, Portfolio 2. So once again, you see there's my page 1, there's my page 2, and then of course I have all the other pages I still have to fill out, but this is coming from Illustrator. Now notice it left a little white around the edges, so just be careful that you truly get, if you don't want to see any white, I did it kind of quickly, that you really drag to the edges, or even go a hair past them. Give yourself a little bit of margin there. Make sure it fits. And then finally, there is one more method, and that method would be using Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, and then just one at a time, saving each file as a PDF file. Okay, in Photoshop, again, that would be if we had made whatever, let's say I'm doing my cover here, so I'll do an 8.5 by 11, you know, and I create my portfolio cover, whatever it's going to be, I don't know. Just making this super quick here. My portfolio, misspelled. Portfolio. Okay, so, you know, and then you'd give it some design and so forth. But I just wanted to put something there for reference. Okay, you just go ahead and you do save as, save to my computer, and I would choose, oh, it's already in the right folder, okay. Adobe Photoshop PDF, okay, and give it a name. And in this case, I don't want to do layers, so you can uncheck layers and then just click save. And so basically that's kind of, and you would just save them all to a folder. And same thing, one at a time with your projects. I always tell you, if you're in my class, when you get to this, you go through all your projects, open them in the various programs, Illustrator or whatever, and make your adjustments, and then you would save them one at a time. In Illustrator, it would be a save as. InDesign, it would be an export, as we know, and you would end up, for each individual project, just having one file, one PDF file. And then some of these are actually JPEG, so, you know, I would have to, and just to show you, let's say I open this one in Photoshop here. Oops. Do it again here. If it is something that you saved as a JPEG, I mean, usually you'd have the master version that's still a PSD or still an AI or it's still a .indd file, but if you only had the flattened JPEG version, you could still do a save as and change it to a PDF file. Photoshop PDF, no layer, there's no layers in this case, and then I would just go save. And leave the compression to default right there. Okay, and then I should have a PDF version of it. There it is. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Okay, let's go ahead and say that I want to make a PDF now of everything, not using InDesign and not using Illustrator. You can actually use just like Adobe Acrobat or even Preview. And so what I would do is I'd go to my front page, and I'm just going to right click and do Open with Preview. This is a default program you should have on your Mac if you have a Mac. And I'm going to go to View Thumbnails to see the thumbnails on the side there. And then I'm going to go to my, let's say I want to do that Puss in Boots poster. Open with Preview. And I'm going to open that with Preview again, View Thumbnails, shrink everything down a little bit here. And what I'll do is just grab the little thumbnail there of that one and drag it until you see a little plus sign goes on top of this one. And if it changes the order, you can always just drag it back, because I actually want this to be the cover, right? And Puss in Boots to be page 2. And what I've done is I've actually created 2 pages here. See what I'm saying? So you can do a multi-page document. And if, let's say I want to add a 3rd page, I can even add something like the moonscapes. Of course, it's in a JPEG here, so let me go ahead and do a quick conversion in Photoshop. right? File, save as. We go to, I gotta disable that, it keeps showing. Go to Adobe PDF, right? Save it, and then save. And there it is, save. Okay, so now I should have a PDF of the moonscapes popping up in just a moment here. And there it is. And I'm going to right click, open with preview. Okay. And then I'm going to do view thumbnails. And then I can actually drag the thumbnail of the moonscapes on top of this guy over here. And again, if it messes up the order, just change the order. And now I can actually, or maybe you want the moonscapes to be page 2, that's fine. So this way, what you can kind of do is you can have all of them together, but they don't have to be the same shape. You can just have a multi-page document, and then just each page can be, whatever you want it to be, okay, whatever size you want it to be. So that is another method, just kind of merging it all together, and one at a time, you could have them here, and it would just be sort of relative to each page. Whoever was looking at it could resize it and look at the artwork. Okay, so that one's a little bit more rough around the edges, but again, everything's still merged together, and it's sort of another option for you if you don't want to standardize the size of everything. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 methods, and as you can see, when I close, last thing I want to say, if I did close that front page, see, front page now has these arrows. It actually, there is no save button. It saved it as a multi-page document. Okay, so that's how that saves. Now, of course, it's not just front page anymore, so I might want to change the name of this and say Portfolio Final, because it's not just the front page. So I just use the front page as a starting point, really, for the rest of it. One more last thing I should think about, if you did want to add more pages, by the way, let's say you're like, oh shoot, I want to add more artwork or delete them. In InDesign, it's very simple. You can just go ahead in your Pages panel, right click, and you can do Insert Pages, and I'll say after page, let's say 7. I'm going to add 1 page, and then you see it adds a page 8, and then the final page becomes page 9. Okay, so that was just, again, right click, Insert Pages is how you do that. And you can tell it where you want it to insert. In Illustrator, it would just be as simple as if you had a multi-page document, or multi-artboard document, I should say. They refer to them as artboards. You could go to the artboard tool, and you can actually just click one of these artboards, hold the Option key, which is a basically universal key for cloning, and just drag right, and it'll make another artboard. Okay, so there's that. There's different. You can also, if you want to, just drag and create another one from scratch as well. So there are different options for you as well to do that in Illustrator. So really, it's up to you what you're most comfortable with. A lot of people, because InDesign is known as the layout program, lean toward InDesign for making your portfolio layout, but you could certainly use Illustrator. You can certainly use all 3, and the sort of preview method of merging it all. There's also a way to merge them in Adobe Acrobat as well, if you're comfortable with that. And there's even some people who like PowerPoint, because PowerPoint is sort of, it's a slide-based, multi-page-based program. So it's really, in the end, up to you. But just make sure you have that cover page that's compelling, and ideally that closer page is your fail-safe with your contact info. So I hope this tutorial was helpful, and now it's up to you to really be creative, create that document that's going to be your calling card when you apply for jobs in the graphic arts and graphic design field. So until next time, thank you and take care.